So yeah, our adventure this time starts in Potchefstroom, Noordwest, where I met up with Oom Cornell at the corporatie in Potchefstroom. We quickly had a delicious meal here and we started to set out to Amersfoort in Mpumalanga, where Country Trax would be hosting their 21st birthday party for the weekend. We were absolutely stoked to finally have some time on the motorcycles, and we were ready for an amazing weekend and lots of surprises lying in front of us. And pretty soon we already ran into our first big decision. We had seen that it would take about 4 hours if we were only going to be using tar roads to get all the way to Amersfoort. But of course we were going to be taking some dirt roads as well. We had a quick stop by to refuel on some petrol and grab 2 beers, so we at least stopped once on our way to Amersfoort and take a small break. The weather was taking a bit of a turn for the worst and it was extremely cold. If you check on a chart, the faster you move, the colder the air is, and I guess we were somewhere around there. But yeah, it was a pretty fun experience. Of course, as long as you're hotter than the cold wind in your face, then it can't do anything to you. And as the weather conditions were worsening even more, we took a quick break and decided to have our beers. And before we even know it, we finally arrived at Amersfoort. I got this really cool shot there as the sun was setting. We also managed to catch up to Jock and Jax, who were also going to the Country Trax birthday this weekend. So we did a quick refuel and hopped onto the last final stretch of dirt road, where I was trying to overtake Jock and Jax in spectacular fashion. But I managed to get myself into quite the situation and grab this serious snake. The bike was going crazy, but somehow I managed to get it under control again, and we all had a really big laugh about it. But that was already my first, let's say, big moment of this weekend, and it would lead to a lot more problems. Now, of course, knowing the final piece of dirt road a bit better than Oom Cornell, I was the person leading. So knowing that Oom Cornell was going to be chasing me from behind, I really gave my bike its all.
Wat 'n tipe gap was daai gewees? Was dit 'n stopgap of was dit Andreas se skak vanaand gap?
So yeah, feeling like I'd done my best to try and stay in front of the 1250 on my bike. We did the last couple of bumps and hills all the way to Country Trax, and we were going to pick out a nice camping spot for the weekend. And it was just before dark and it was getting pretty cold, and we could also tell that it was going to be raining these following 2 nights, hopefully not too much the following day when we were going to be having our outride. And we started greeting everyone and it was just an absolute festival. I also had a laugh with Jock, who was in the Fortuner as I was, having that moment. And yeah, with our tent set up, we got ready for the first night, sleep, and I pitched my tent right next to Oom Cornell, who you all know by now is a big snorer. But obviously I didn't mind. I was gonna just make a plan on the spot, and I opted for some interesting solutions, I guess. And yeah, getting up the next morning after I'd say, which was a fair night's rest, although I had to blow back up my mattress 2 or 3 times throughout the night. I also found a small hole, quickly ran outside and grabbed insulation tape, tried to stick the hole closed, but of course that wasn't going to work. But it was just going to be like that for the rest of the weekend. And yeah, pretty soon we all got together for today's outride. There was going to be 2 groups, one group of adventure bikes, bigger motorcycles. We're going to be doing bigger, longer roads, and then the guys on the dirt bikes would be doing a bit more enduro, off-road type style things. And yeah, the nice thing about this weekend was that we were not only 30 motorcycles that came together for this weekend. This was about 30 riders who were all pretty experienced. These were mostly guys that have, at least double, some of them 3-4 times the amount of experience that I have. So you'll see pretty soon on how experienced all these guys ride these big bikes, and we were absolutely just loving it. So yeah, this was probably, in my opinion, the most difficult thing we did all weekend. I'm sure the GoPro doesn't do it justice to show you exactly how steep this climb is. Coming down, we did it extremely slowly, and the big problem I had here was my first attempt. I took it way too right. I went too far to the right of the track we were supposed to take, and it was full of these big holes covered with grass. So you'll see my bike constantly jumping up and down as I was struggling to gain traction. And luckily I somehow did get going again after I stopped once or twice and spun out, and I got about almost to the top. But what I did not know was that the incline kept on going even after you cleared the tree line. So the best thing to do from here on out was just to do your straightforward uphill recovery. And I turned around real quick, went all the way down the hill again, and then took my second attempt. And luckily this time it went a lot better. Oom Cornell also had a small moment here. Sorry Oom Cornell, but I caught that. But luckily it wasn't a hard drop, and the motorcycle and Oom Cornell were both fine, and after a quick pickup they were done, and it was time to start my second attempt. And yeah, as you can see, this time just staying on the trail made it a lot easier, and it was a really crispy climb, and I got to the top and it was so much fun. I also had a quick moment to duke it out against Oom John's 890. Of course, I wasn't going to stand much of a chance, but it was fun. Now, what's up and coming pretty soon is my moment for the entire weekend, and so it's quite a long story, so I guess I'll start telling you about it now. So what I was trying to do here and there was ride next to the guys, exactly like this, you know, in the grass. And if you've ever wanted to see someone that makes a 1250 look small, just look at Dalton. But anyways, so I like riding next to people. I've done it quite a lot in my previous videos, and especially when it's these, well, I want to call it predictable grass fields. You know, you can ride next to them in the grass and try and capture them from the sides. But coming around one of these corners, and pretty soon we were in like an open field. And yeah, I was just having so much fun, and I guess this was kind of my first warning. Yeah, I overshot that a bit, and I went into that bit of a slit there in the road, and even that was a close call in my opinion at the time. And then as you can see, we went through like a small forest, and I got that same idea to get off the road and ride next to the other bikers and try and capture them from the side on the grass. And this was exactly where I went onto the grass off the road. And what I did not think about was that the road was pretty straight, so they were starting going really fast, a lot faster, and I started going a lot faster, and then all of a sudden there was a dip, and right there I pretty much ran out of suspension, and the bike just shot me right over it. But of course I analyzed the footage, and you know, to be honest, what actually happened was there was a snake that I saw a massive puff at her, and I was looking at the snake, and I just flew over the bike. But yeah, it was a good time. I got up right after. Luckily nothing was broken except for some of the panels on my bike, but I mean, these were panels that were already broken from nationals. And Dalton was on the scene pretty quickly as well. But like I said earlier as well, if you just started in the ground can't do much to you, so we just got back on the bikes and continued with the weekend's trip. So yeah, just a pan of my motorcycle and some of the panels that were broken. But yeah, like as I said, most of these panels were broken already, and I was in good shape. I don't know how, but nothing was wrong. The only unfortunate thing that broke was my GoPro's mount onto my helmet. This is like a 3D printed mount, and yeah, it was completely snapped into like 4 or 5 pieces. The GoPro was fine, luckily, but from here on out it was pretty sad. But I realized that I was only going to be able to record handheld footage, so that's why every now and then I just stopped and recorded some of what was happening. We eventually met up with the rest of the people, and we did some further damage assessment on my motorcycle, and Jock just quickly helped me bend my gear lever straight again. We also noticed that I'd snapped off all my bash plates bolts within the engine, so we would have to like drill those out once we got back, but for now we were just gonna leave it. I rated that it would hold. We only had like lunch left, and then after that we would be going back to Country Trax, Amersfoort. But yeah, we grabbed an awesome lunch, and yeah. And of course, as always, once it came time to leave, some of the skilled riders popped some epic wheelies outside. And yeah, all in all, everybody was having such a good time. And upon finally getting back at Country Trax, I took a well-deserved shower. A lot of the guys had some fun times in the bathtub. I don't know what was going on beneath the water, but I was pretty stoked. And this was going to be the night of the main birthday party of Country Trax. And yeah, congratulations Country Trax on reaching the age of 21 years. This was a really spectacular party. Jan sliced the cake and everybody just cheered, and it was really quite the evening. And of course there were a couple of things going on that, you know, typical things that happen at motorcycle training Academy's 21st year's birthdays, but rather not show everything. And pretty soon after, it was time for bed, and waking up the next morning, it was pretty misty. It had been raining all night, and my motorcycle still took on some shots, but the main event was over, and everybody was going to slowly but surely start packing up their tents, and we said goodbye, and afterwards we set out.
Nice.
And just like that, my motorcycle was ready to head out. All of my gear was packed into my Atacama bag on the back of my motorcycle. And Oom Cornell was going to be borrowing me one of his cable ties. Thank you so much, Oom Cornell. So we could just tighten the bash plate onto the motorcycle so it wasn't hopping the whole way back to Klerksdorp. We had quite the stretch of road in front of us, but as always, when expected, we were traveling with Oom John. And of course it wasn't going to be a straightforward tar road all the way back to, they were going to Johannesburg and we were going to Klerksdorp. And pretty soon we set out on another small mini adventure through some single tracks and bits and pieces here and there, and every time we stopped I immediately plucked out my GoPro and recorded as much as possible. And it was when we reached this hill that I decided this was enough. We were going to be having a lot of fun today, and I did not want to miss out on all that adventure. So I immediately raced down the hill, recorded some of the guys coming up the hill. Oom Cornell had a lovely pass there. And while all of this is happening, what we did was we took out a roll of insulation tape and quickly stuck my GoPro onto my motorcycle exactly the same way my now broken mount used to. And thanks Dirk for helping me. He quickly helped me hold it down, and we just got that thing tied down to my helmet. It didn't look very spectacular and my visor no longer worked, but it didn't matter as now I would be able to record the day's happenings, and it was definitely worth it. And yeah, at this point it was stuck on my helmet, and I'll quickly show you in the mirror, or try to show you at least what the the mess of insulation tape looked like, and yeah, from the side as well. But yeah, from here on we set out. It was raining, like these small misty rains on top of these high up hills, and we were just, as always, giving our bikes their all, opening and closing the gates as we passed through them. I was having a bit of trouble with this gate in particular, don't tell anybody. And yeah, after using mostly dirt roads to get to the nearest town, we had a quick pit stop. I noticed that the cable tie had melted on my cat, but Dirk luckily advised me to just use some wire that we could find somewhere on a farm. Yeah, we all had a delicious coffee, and Dirk has always had something to say. And soon after, we were getting ready on the motorcycles to head out again, and little did we know that the bit of road that was ahead of us now was even more adventurous and entertaining. And as always, Oom John gave us an awesome wheelie. The control that he has on whichever bike it is he jumps is just crazy. And I also got this present. We were waving at some kids, and one of them decided to knock out my only panel that was not damaged at this point, and it got a hole clean through. It was a pretty big stone. Thank you so much for that, man. And you'll see the hole over there. I quickly turned around, and I mean, it's easy to catch these kids over this grass field, but seeing how I ended up on my previous grass field and the amount of time that I'd be wasting, we just rode on. We came across this bridge and decided to rather not go under it, as Oom Cornell, as all of you know by now, has a massive fear of it's a combination of claustrophobia and gyrophoria. I'm sorry, I do not know how to say that word, but I'm guessing it's gyrophoria. But we soon after came across the exact same tunnel where Oom Cornell's claustrophobia was instigated. And it was in this particular tunnel where he, in the last 5 meters of exiting it, slammed into the left side and completely totaled one of his rally kits and motorcycles. But at long last, Oom Cornell had returned victorious and managed to pass through the same tunnel this time without any incidents. Congratulations, Oom Cornell. This was a big moment in your life, in all of our lives. We are all so proud of you. Well done. And yeah, what followed was these single tracks in between, woven, overgrown single tracks. It was so much fun. This was it was the most fun I was having on my motorcycle in quite the while. And yeah, just as we managed to cross that big gap in the road, the erosion, my final GoPro battery ran flat. I really do apologize, because the rest of this adventure was pretty interesting. I mean, it was only 1 day left of riding, but it was close to, I don't know, 400, 500 kilometers that we still had to go all the way back to Klerksdorp. And we had delicious food and quite the amount of interesting things happening along the way. But I normally try and plan so that my last GoPro battery runs flat close to the end of our trips, and I was not suspecting this to happen on our final day, having all of this extra time to ride around and mess around. But I am trying to get more batteries and try and increase the quality of these videos. But yeah, as always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and yeah, happy riding. Cheers.